Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Saman Habibi and I'm a real estate agent here in the Durham region. I actively help my clients buy, sell, and invest in real estate. Before we jump into the video, please like and subscribe to the channel so more and more people can stay connected and watch more videos like this. And as always, my socials are here in the video. Please feel free to connect with me on my socials. And lastly, this QR code that you see here, this is a way for you to jump right into my calendar. What you can do is take out your phone, turn on your camera, point it at the QR code, and this way you'll be able to book a one-on-one call with me. All right, so let's jump into the data and let's take a look at what's happening in the real estate market. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at some data, and first we'll take a look at year over year, and then we'll take a look at month over month to see what's happening. We're going to start with looking at year over year because this is what the media has been talking about. We're essentially going to be comparing a peak period in February 2022 to a more corrected period in February 2023. And if we take a look at the data, here I've selected the Durham region. And as you can see, if we look across the board over here in the sales price percentage change, you're going to see that there's a lot of red, and the difference in the market from the peak to now is going to be a correction of anywhere between 20 to 25% and even as high as 36% in certain areas of the Durham region. And essentially this is happening because we know that in mid to late 2022, there's been interest rate increases, and even to the new year in 2023, there's been interest rate increases. And as a result, this has had a big impact on prices. So in my opinion, it's more accurate for us to take a look at month over month prices, because this way we can take a look and see what is happening to real estate prices as these events, these interest rate events happen. So as these events happen, are prices going up or coming down? So if we take a look at the data, again, we're looking at the Durham region. The sales price where my cursor is, this is going to be February 2023. The comparable sales is going to be January 2023. And as a result, let's take a look at sales price and what's happening to sales price. So as you can see, the sales prices, we have Ajax with an increase of 8.6%. Brock has increased quite a bit, 22%, and we'll talk about why. But then the rest of the Durham region has been fairly stable with not a lot of material movements. So what I want to kind of point out when we look at this data right away is that we can ignore some areas like Brock, Scugog, and Uxbridge. And that's essentially because when we look at the volume of data that is being reported, it's extremely low. And as a result, the sample size is not big enough to be able to get a more accurate picture. So Brock, we can exclude that right away. And if we actually look at the data, you're going to see that in Sunderland, when we look at the sales for Feb 2023, there was perhaps one or two sales above the $1 million mark. And when we kind of look at the previous month, it was only, the median price was only $549,000. So that's skewing the data a lot. And that same story is going to be relevant in Scugog and in Uxbridge. So we can kind of ignore some of these areas where volumes aren't high and we don't have a clear picture. But if we take a look at Ajax, well, you're going to say, how come Ajax, a town that does have, decent amount of volume, has increased quite a bit? If we look at the volumes, yes, there has been good volume increase in terms of sales. But if we look at the rest of the GTA, we're going to see that the rest of the Durham region is more than double. So in Ajax, volumes of sold transactions is around 23% increase from Feb to January. But then when we look at the rest of the Durham region, it's much higher, right? So we look at Oshawa, the volumes and supply was high, and as a result, prices have not increased as much. That's because as there's more volume in the market, there's more supply in the market, there's more choice for people to select from, and as a result, as supply goes up, prices tend to come down. So since we spoke about Ajax and why Ajax has increased in price, I can give you, my anecdotal evidence as to what I'm seeing in Ajax. Ajax seems to be that town that is close to the waterfront, and as a result, people have that desire to want to be in the waterfront community. And unlike other areas in the Durham region, the waterfront community in Ajax does seem to have a lot of, detached two-story homes. Whereas when we look at Oshawa Whitby, the waterfront community is more so, that detached bungalow type of home. So in Ajax, the demand is higher because there's bigger homes, there's two-story homes, and this has just become very attractive to a lot of buyers. In addition to that, Ajax has been a very prominent area for people to live in who commute to the downtown core, and that's because the Ajax GO station will take you to Union Station, downtown Toronto, in around 40 minutes, so it provides a lot of convenience to people. And lastly, being very close to the 401 and having that accessibility to the 401 has also become another reason why people are very attracted to Ajax. So now that we've spoke about year-over-year data and month-over-month data, I also want to take a look at two other factors. So if we speak about the sales to list price ratio, this is very important in my opinion to keep track of because it's essentially telling me what sellers and buyers are doing. When I see a sales to list price ratio go above 100%, this tells me, this gives me an indication as to what's happening in the market in terms of properties being listed. So we are seeing more and more properties coming to market, and as a result, they're being priced a lot lower. So when I see a sales to list price ratio, this tells me that in the market, there are more listings that are priced below market value. And as a result, most properties, or on average, properties are selling for 111% above the asking price. And this makes sense because when we look at the market, we're seeing a lot of these properties come below market value. And when we look at what's happening on offer night, we're seeing multiple offers being presented on these properties. And now if we take a look at the percentage of sales going above asking price, right now, 64% of properties that are being listed in the market are selling above asking price. And this does make sense because this is essentially what we're seeing when we go out to the market and our boots on the ground. We are seeing a lot of properties come below market value. And on offer night, when we get notifications, we see that each of these properties have multiples and multiples of offers on them. The last point of data that I want to talk to you about is essentially what has been happening in the market in terms of median price, when we compare it to the last couple of months. Essentially what I want to take a look at is I want to take a look at a chart that gives us median price starting from June of 2020 and month to date of March 2023. We can ignore what was happening in 2020 because we know that the market had a ramp up and it started increasing. Here, when my cursor is, this is February of 2022, when prices were at the peak. And then as interest rates started increasing, we saw the decrease in the market. And here we see prices coming down. But I essentially want to take your attention to July of 2022, kind of looking onwards and looking straight. So if we take a look at this data, this purple line that we see, this is the city of Oshawa. If we look at prices have stayed fairly stable. In July of 2022, the median price was $770,000. And now if we take a look at February of 2023, for Oshawa, the median price was $757,000. So people are saying we're waiting for the market to correct and we're waiting for prices to come down. But if we take a look at the evidence, we see that since July, prices have remained fairly straight line and fairly flat. The same is essentially relevant to Whitby and to Ajax. If we take a look here, this orange line is going to be Whitby, and we don't have huge spikes of up and down. In August of 2022, the median price was $994,000, and in February of 2023, the median price was $971,000. So it's around the same price point, and there hasn't been a lot of material ups or downs in these areas. Today is Wednesday, March 8th, and the Bank of Canada made an announcement today that they are not going to be raising the interest rates, which is great news to a lot of Canadians because we know that this is not going to have an impact on borrowing costs. However, and there's always, there's always a but when we talk about interest rates, because in Canada, we depend highly on what is happening in the US. And what we know is that the US Fed came out and they actually did increase their interest rates recently. And this is going to have an impact on what the Bank of Canada is going to do going forward. So we know that in March, they didn't increase interest rates, which is good news, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to raise interest rates going forward. So if we take a look at what the Fed did raise interest rates. And this tells me that Canada will have to follow suit as well, because if we don't, the impacts are going to be material and are going to lead to inflation. So if the Bank of Canada does not raise interest rates, this is going to have an impact on our Canadian dollar, and the value of the Canadian dollar is going to decrease. As the value of the Canadian dollar decreases, this is going to have an impact on what we import into Canada. And what I want to show you over here is a chart that essentially shows what the Canadian interest rate expectation is. If the Canadian dollar decreases in value and we're importing goods, which we do a lot of, then this means that it's going to cost more to import these goods into Canada. And as we spend more money on these goods, the cost of goods are going to increase. As the cost of goods increases, this inflation is going to be passed on to the consumers, and now the consumers are going to be spending more money on goods. So in order to manage this process, the Bank of Canada essentially has to follow suit with what the US Fed does, which is increase interest rates. The last thing that I want to talk to you about today is first-time home buyers. So when we take a look at the Toronto Real Estate Board and the market outlook that they put out, they're expecting that 46% of first-time home buyers are intending to make a purchase in 2023. This is great news because we know that first-time home buyers in Canada have been and wanting to get into the market. And as a result, there's data to show that they're actually looking and they're in the market and they're looking to get into the market. So what I want to do is I want to kind of take a look at what is the best bang for buck when it comes to first-time home buyers, and what can they expect to get into. So before we get into the topic of what you can buy, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're watching this video, I think it's very important to have your ducks in a row. And part of that process is making sure that you've connected with a mortgage broker to be able to know, where your credit stands, where your income stands, and what you qualify for. So if you'd like to connect with a mortgage broker, please reach out to me and I can make an introduction for you, and you can get that process going. Essentially, what I want to do here is I want to show you a chart of the Durham region. And this chart takes a look at the different type of properties that are available for you. So we take a look at townhomes, condo apartments, condo townhouses, detached and semi. And what I want to do is I want to kind of show you what the value of these properties are. And this can perhaps give you a sense of what you can get into if you have gone to a mortgage broker and you know what your qualification levels are. So essentially, if we take a look at February 2023, the cheapest type of property that you can get into is the condominium apartments. In the Durham region, the median price for a condominium apartment is around $541,000. Next is the condominium townhouse, which is valued at around $660,000. And this makes sense because the condominium apartments or townhouses typically have a maintenance fee associated with them. And as a result, that kind of limits how much they increase in value. But if we're going to take a look and talk about freehold homes, when we talk about freehold, we have townhouses, we have semi-detached, and we have detached. And you would expect that townhouses would be on the cheaper side because they are essentially, you're sharing two walls with two different neighbors, and that has at times created an inconvenience or not a desired type of property for people. But if we take a look at the data, the semi-detached properties are in fact cheaper than the townhomes. And we know that with a semi-detached property, you're typically sharing one wall, or you are always sharing one wall down the middle, and there are two homes on either side. So when we take a look at the value of a semi-detached property, as of February 2023, in the Durham region, a semi-detached, the median price is $741,000 versus townhomes that are valued at $865,000. And I believe that the reason why townhomes are higher in value is because there are a lot more newer townhomes that are being constructed as part of the pre-construction process. So because they're newer, they sell at a premium, and as a result, the median price is higher. Whereas the semi-detached properties started being built around the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000. So as a result, those properties are a bit older, so the price is a bit lower, but as a result, it is still the best bang for a buck when you're looking at what type of property to get into. I would say the semi-detached properties are the sweet spot for first-time home buyers. The last thing that I want to talk to first-time homebuyers about is there's this notion of trying to time the market. And I know that a lot of people have been sitting on the sidelines from the conversation that I'm having with my buyers. They're sitting on the sideline waiting to time the market. And what I want to do is I want to show you sales prices by property types and essentially show you that there hasn't been a material increase or decrease in these properties since June or July of 2022. And essentially this is important because if you're in the market and you're looking and all your financials are ready to go, I would say that this is perhaps going to be a decent time to consider looking into the market, because as we can see, again, we're taking a look at on this chart, we're taking a look at townhomes, condo apartments, condo townhouses, detached and semis. And essentially almost all these different type of properties that you see, they have maintained their value, and there hasn't been a big material increase or decrease in prices. So my message to first-time homebuyers is that if you're looking to get into the market, your best bang for a buck is going to be the semi-detached property. And I would say that in terms of trying to time the market, there's really no need to do that at this moment because prices have remained fairly stable. Although there's that risk of interest rates going up or down, there's a lot of talk about interest rates going up. I would say that because supply is so low right now in the market, and we've even seen it, although interest rates have gone up, prices have not dropped. And that's because supply is very low and inventory is very low. So that wraps up the market update video for the month of February 2023. Thank you for making it this long and watching this video. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section below and I will address them on my own. And again, if you're looking to get into the market but don't know where to start, my QR code is here. Feel free to scan it and book a call with me, a one-on-one call with me, and we can talk about your personal scenario and what you're trying to achieve.